Hey guys, well, welcome to this song demonstration. We've already looked at a number of things that you can use this sort of basic rhythm pattern, the basic feel for, but I've noticed, I was looking over the catalog, we had Sweet Caroline from the 60s, and we had All Shook Up from the 50s, and we looked at Taking Care of Business from the 70s, and we looked at some Lady Gaga, Born This Way from the 2000s. And I thought, well, it's time that we introduce some 80s music. So while we're still working with the basic rhythm pattern, I wanted to show you one of my favorite 80s songs, which is Separate Ways by sort of the quintessential 80s band, Journey. So that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to talk a little bit about chord inversions. We're going to talk a little more in this video about the weird situation where you have a chord in your right hand that's being played with a bass note that's different than you normally play it with, and how that's shown. And also notably in this particular one, the chords that I've written out for you, the progression down there in the description, it's the same key as the recording, because now we have enough chord knowledge, I feel comfortable doing that and not kind of keeping everything just in the key of C. So you're going to be able to, if you want to, look up the recording and on YouTube or Spotify or whatever and play along with it. And that may or may not work out well for you the first time. There's a learning curve with that. You really have to be comfortable moving from chord to chord and whatnot. But we're at the place where you can start doing that. And of course, you should always just enjoy it as much as you want on your own. Enjoy the growth and the expansion and connecting the dots in your mind as to what we're talking about and how it turns into music. So I'm going to change the camera angle and we're going to look at Separate Ways by Journey. Okay, I'm excited. Okay, well, as usual, I've written out the chord changes down there in the description based on, there's an intro, and then there's a verse, there's kind of a pre-chorus, meaning the area right before you go into the chorus, and then, of course, there's a chorus to the song. And there's a lot of fun little keyboard signatures and things in this, but this is a great example of the basic feel, because I'm going to play it a little more complex and then work backwards so you can see how the basic feels perfect. And as I pointed out, we're in the same key as Journey on this one, so you might want to tune in to one of their videos of it and play along with it if you want, and just start getting a feel for that. Although, just like I say, don't stress yourself out about it. You really have to be familiar with it so that you can jump to the next chord when it's time, or else they'll leave you in the dust. So when this starts, all that is it's a little riff that they put together, but it's on an E minor chord. Can you hear underneath that? It's just an E minor chord. So the intro starts on just an E minor. And then when the band kind of kicks in and it's not just that synthesizer thing, then it goes and you'll hear it go. Well, this is one of those times where we have, it's asking us to stay on an E bass, okay? So the way it's written out, and you'll see this down there, you've got a chord and then you've got a chord slash, it's that weird fraction thing where it's a slash E, means stay on an E bass but play the chord that's over the top on the top half of the fraction. So it's an E minor, then it's a D chord, D, E, F sharp, A, and then it goes to a C and it stays there for a couple counts. So So that's pretty much what's going on through the verses. So let me give you an example. I'm just going to sing a little bit of it, and I'm going to do it an octave lower because Steve Perry has got a slightly higher singing voice than I do. But here we stand, worlds apart are broken into two. Sleepless nights, losing ground, I'm reaching for you. Okay, now it goes to a C chord, then D, then A minor, then back to C, D, A minor, C. And underneath that, that's where he says, feeling that it's gone can change your mind. If we can't go on, survive the tide, love divides. So then on the chorus, it goes to E minor. Someday love will find you, D. Break those chains that bind you, C. One night will remind you, A minor, how we touched and went into a D. Went our separate ways back to E minor. If he ever hurts you, D. True love won't desert you, C. Your nights will remind you. Then A minor, how we touched and went our separate ways back to D. Our separate ways back to E minor. So now that was a little choppy, obviously, because I was kind of reading the lyrics over here, but listen to how this really kind of takes that song and encapsulates it. Okay, so now what I want to show you in this, and we will be touching on this in lesson videos as well, but just sort of a preview of coming attractions, and you can start playing around with it a little bit, is that you can do fun rhythmic things with your right hand over the top of this rock solid left hand that make it a little more interesting. So it's not just constantly going, okay? Notice how I'm kind of doing any rhythm that feels fine. I could come down and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, da 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 da. The other thing that I could do is I love playing with part of my hand. So you're on this chord, right? I call it a toggle. I love playing with the part of the chord with the top half of my hand, and then toggling down with my thumb on its note, and just kind of da-da-da, da-da-da. So see, what I'm doing is I'm syncopating. If you think about it in 1, 2, 3, 4 syncopations, when you come in on the kind of off beats, 1, 2, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and da 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 da. Now, you know, Sometimes that developing the rhythmic timing to do that sometimes takes a little bit of time, but there's a lot of fun things you can do. Instead of just playing on 2 and 4, you can just come down and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Now, the other fun thing about this song that might be of interest to you is to play around with your inversions a little bit, because notice this is an E minor chord, a D chord, and a C chord over this E bass, but in none of those cases are you playing it in the root inversion. You're playing... See, you're playing with the B on the bottom, so you're in second inversion E minor. You're playing in the second inversion of D here, A on the bottom, D, F sharp, G, C, E. So right there's nothing all that fancy they're doing, but you can copy it by simply knowing the inversions of your chords. See what I'm doing there? I'm not moving this part of my hand, I'm just kind of alternating back and forth with my thumb in between what my left hand is doing. Dut, 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 dut. People ask me all the time, they go, man, you get a really full sound out of your piano, and it really seems to groove a lot, and what are you doing that's different? And a lot of times what they're hearing is just little maneuvers like that I'm making with just my right thumb, sort of filling a little space in between whatever my left hand's doing, and it's not a full chord, it's just a little bit of interplay with just my thumb. So that's kind of a fun thing. The other thing I want to point out is with your sustain pedal, if you have one, I was taught a lesson. I put in the equipment video, at the very first video, that you need a sustain pedal, and it is ideal to have a sustain pedal, but I had a fellow write me and say, I'm a double amputee and I don't know how I could use a sustain pedal. And the truth is, you don't have to have a sustain pedal. In fact, I wasn't playing with one right there, but it does make your transitions a little bit less stark, because what a sustain pedal basically does is let everything ring. However, if you're not careful with it, what you end up with is, and eventually everything's bleeding into everything else and you get kind of a cacophony. So what you want to do with your sustain pedal is, anytime you're about to change chords, you let up on it and come right back down. Let up on it and come right back down. Anytime you're about to change chords. So I'm down, up, down, up, down. So see, it's allowing it to ring and have that nice ambiance, but I'm not allowing chords to bleed into other chords. And that's kind of all you have to do with a sustain pedal. And then quite often in those cases, it'll be once every 4 counts or so. But basically, your rule of thumb is anytime you change chords, right as you're making the change, just lift up and come right back down. Lift up and come right back down. And it'll kind of become like second nature to you, like old hat. It'll just kind of happen automatically. You don't want to have to think a lot about it. But that's basically how you use the sustain pedal. So anyway, this is a very fun song. This is a fun rhythm pattern, and it's got a great groove to it. And I'm proud of the fact that we were able to already look at a great song from the 50s, a great song from the 70s, a great song from the 2000s, a great song from the 80s, and a great song from the 60s, all with just this rhythm pattern. And we've barely even touched the surface of all the things that you can do to sort of dress it up and embellish it. And we're going to talk about that particularly in the last week of lessons. We're really going to get into how to dress up all of the different rhythm patterns because there's transferable skills for all of them. But I just wanted to start giving you some food for thought about what you can do besides just play this. But don't be afraid to just use the basic feel, because I got to tell you, I've seen lots and lots and lots of very, very well-trained and very skilled piano players who have been trained by a more traditional method, who, if they tried to play separate ways, wouldn't come up with anything as compelling as... I mean, that already is, seriously, that gets you like 60% of the way that you want to go, and the rest of it's just having a little bit more fun and adding a little bit more nuance. So anyway, fun. So definitely go and check out, Journey's version of it, so that you can see how what I'm doing there is approximating the song. See if you can hear the connective tissue. Play through the chord changes that I have down there. Play around with it. Start playing with some of these improv ideas if you like. Definitely play around with inversions if you like on this, but try to have some fun with it. We're really going to start. We're going to start expanding the toolbox a little bit here. So fun stuff. Oh, this kind of thing really excites me. I'm such a nerd. Okay, I'll see you in the next lesson video, gang.